OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Yeah, you're very welcome along to our Sports Breakfast Show here, brought to you by Off the Ball. It's OTB AM. I'm Ger Gilroy. We're here with you until 9:30 every morning of the week. You can get us on YouTube, you can get us on Facebook, you can get us on Periscope. The best place to get us is on the Off the Ball website, offtheball.com. We stream live there every morning. You can also get us on the GoLoud app. We've got a very busy show for you, loads of football to talk about. Graham Hunter's going to join us a little bit later on. We're going to play out the full Ronaldo interview from the Web Summit. Darren Cleary tweeted it was the longest interview he's ever done in English, so that was good.
Congratulations.
There you go, you know.
It was Ger who did the interview.
I got one photograph of the two of us behind, and I've got the biggest shit-eating grin I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, wow.
Is that the most famous person you've ever interviewed?
Yeah, I guess so. Oh.
Well, Tommy's saying Lance Meyer. I think Ronaldo's more famous than Lance Armstrong.
It's hard to know, isn't it? Probably. Oh, absolutely, isn't he?
Without question.
He's global.
He won the World Cup. And
he was everybody who follows football in Japan and China and India, and they all know Tommy's got a bake on him now.
No, Ronaldo.
We're not going to get any of your comments for the rest of the show, by the way, if you agree with us and if you disagree with Tommy. So maybe you want to tweet us directly with that. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. Very famous. Yes, that's good. That should be an interesting little bit later on. Lots of stuff happened last night that we should talk about.
I'm struggling to remember the last time a night of the Champions League is actually disappointed. I really just can't think. Surely the last round will give us some sort of drab couple of hours of football where there might be a dead rubber here or there. But even then, last night there was a few relative dead rubbers that you're like, the stakes here aren't necessarily that high, especially when you looked at the Paris Saint-Germain Real Madrid game, and yet that delivered a huge dose of drama. Gareth Bale standing over that free kick at the very end, whacks it off the post. Probably thinking about golf as he steps up to the thing, doesn't really care too much about football, and still managed to get them within a whisker of winning that game. Would have loved to have seen how the Real Madrid fans reacted. But then, Olympiacos just gave us a beautiful kind of burst of energy in their game against Spurs.
And one of the best fresh air defensive kicks I've seen in, I don't know, for 25 years. I mean, it was amazing. It was like, what are you doing? All you have to do is just side foot it out for a corner. No, I'm going to have a wild lash at it. Dele Alli couldn't what? Am I allowed to celebrate this because it's so easy?
It was, yeah, that has been something that's kind of filtered through over the last couple of days. We saw it in the Villa game on Monday night, players not celebrating because of VAR, and perhaps that just filters down to everything, even though Dele Alli knows he's in
he
a perfect place.
He looked across to the offside as well, so in fairness. But I don't know. I think that they should just get on with it and celebrate. American football has had the possibility of your stuff being overturned for years. Go and celebrate. They celebrate wildly, and they don't. I mean, because they practice the celebration. They're going to get it out there. Mm-hmm. And if it's scratched off, it's like, well, we've got to do a celebration.
Yeah, it would be a shame to
take the
waste
endorphin
content.
buzz. Yes, that's exactly it. You're wasting the content. You're wasting the endorphins. Take the endorphins.
I guess
enjoy it.
We get such
give them back later. Who cares?
I don't think Americans enjoy the whole process of a thing being ruled out and seeing somebody celebrate. Kind of sulking them because they didn't get their celebration moments to be verified. I don't think Americans get as much joy out of that as we do on this side of the Atlantic. We love seeing somebody celebrate and then fail immediately afterwards.
I guess it's much more difficult to score in football than it is in American football.
So 140 minutes, or 130 minutes, that's the number of minutes played of football before we actually saw a real José Mourinho. So it was 40 minutes played last night when you start to see him snarling. There was a free kick and they're 2-0 down, and he was like, "Wait, come on, get this thing going," and he was going at the official, and we saw before that kind of the master that he is, taking Eric Dyer off, even though Harry Winks was clearly the inferior midfielder, I thought, at the time. Just kind of making a point, showing to everybody, you look at this guy, you see him walking down into the dugout, that will be you if you dare screw up this game plan again. So we had all these kind of classic elements of José Mourinho come up within a 10-15 minute period, and then that goal happened, as you mentioned, that error. And
I'm pretty sure Kevin De Bruyne had like a 15-minute cameo within which José Mourinho decided that he was no good, and maybe he played a few more games after that, but he'd made his mind up pretty quickly. So if I'm Eric Dyer, I'm like, okay, so Manchester United were very interested in me a couple of seasons back. I wonder, are they still likely to give me a pay rise and a big contract?
Probably not.
They might be.
Probably not.
Do you not think that, like, if I'm Eric Dyer's agent, that I couldn't just get into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's ear and go, you pair him with Pogba, it's dynamite. Like he's the new Roy Keane.
I was thinking of putting up a poll last night of Eric Dyer or Nemanja Matic clearly you know which way you would vote.
For
just as a general footballer.
Who am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be José Mourinho? Because from José Mourinho, we know the answer.
It's Nemanja Matic.
But I think that, you know, it would be the spine of the England team would be what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have acquired. You know, that would buy him a lot of time with a certain coterie of hacks.
It certainly would. It certainly would. I think José will immediately fall in love with, or eventually fall in love with Eric Dyer.
No, I think my point is it's De Bruyne-esque last night. It's like...
Well, I know the point you're trying to make, but I disagree. I think that it'll just take a bit of time for José Mourinho to craft him into his Nemanja Matic. You know, you can't just arrive at a club and be Nemanja Matic. There's greatness attached to that tag.
You don't get a second opportunity with Mourinho, is my point. Obviously, it's one of the biggest screw-ups of his career.
But Kevin De Bruyne hadn't a body of work at Chelsea.
Salah. Like
Eric Dyer has his body of work behind him.
Not for Mourinho.
Not for
what
Mourinho,
did he do for you recently?
He does for the club.
Eating bread, soon forgotten. That's how that works.
I would be astonished if José Mourinho could actually look at the base of his midfield and think to himself that Harry Winks is head and shoulders above Eric Dyer, or even a bit above Eric Dyer. I think in that position, you still have Dyer ahead of him, even though...
Do they not have loads of other players who can play there?
Like you were talking about Wanyama, Sissoko, like they're probably more...
What does Ndombele do?
Ndombele is kind of more, he would sit in front of them a little bit. Ndombele Dyer would be a great partnership with the base midfield with Eriksen ahead of them.
Anyway, right. What I thought was the quality of the football played in the PSG Real game, that first half especially, was sensational. Like, it was just brilliant to watch. Even when not that much was happening. The goal, there was... not making the referee in the middle of the build-up to the goal was like, Eden Hazard's pretty good. And he was feeling himself last night. He was feeling the little, I'm going to kill the ball dead, I'm going to do my pirouette 360, and the world is mine. It was like a VR kind of, you could see the pitch opening up for him. When he plays like that, I love watching him. He
is the best when he's in that sort of form. There's almost kind of an element to Eden Hazard that you think to yourself, where does he find that next level of confidence, or where he's almost like a humble football player on the pitch, which seems kind of a weird thing to say given he's a flair player. But people have always kind of put him in the breath of just behind Messi and Ronaldo on his day. And
I think on his day he could be anything. I actually feel like sometimes he's underperformed a little bit because he is so lavishly gifted that he could run every game he plays in.
And he should be able to do that. I don't think he would ever be kind of classed in the same bracket as the two lads in Ronaldo and Messi.
Now, yeah.
But I think that, as we say, that when he had those moments at Stamford Bridge when he was just this looking at people around him and saying, no, actually, forget the rest of you. This is my game. I am clearly the most superior talent on this pitch. I'm just going to run this game. Then he is amazing, as you say. And it is interesting that actually it is at a club like Real Madrid where he might be able to find that form more often. And that also is kind of a strange thing to say because he was amazing for Chelsea and he was consistent for long stretches for Chelsea. But when you are playing alongside the likes of Karim Benzema and you've got Isco behind you, good, really, really good quality midfield with Casemiro and Kroos behind you as well as they were last night, you just turn into a superstar. It allows you to spread your wings and be brilliant. And obviously that left side of the Real Madrid attack is iconic and it has been for a decade now. But there's a foundation there that has allowed Ronaldo to thrive. And you kind of actually root for the guy. You root
totally,
for
yeah. They took him off though, and they brought Bale on. Like he's in that situation with them where, I don't know. I think he probably needs to play the full game so that he feels like he's the big dog.
Potentially, like Gareth Bale. Is Gareth Bale the most supremely talented person in that team? Himself or Hazard, for me, probably would be the two. And there is kind of an argument to be made that there has been moments in their career where you're like, is there a level that they haven't reached? Certainly with Gareth Bale over the past couple of seasons and his love for golf. But as I said, I would have loved nothing more than to see the smiles wiped off the faces of the Real Madrid fans if Gareth Bale had actually banged into the back of the net. I'm pretty sure most of those Real Madrid fans would have been devastated to see Gareth Bale score that goal. They would be devastated to score that goal. They've got this weird sense of pride. He's smeared the white jersey in a sand bunker. That's what Gareth Bale has done over the last couple of years of his career.
The bench last night that they had was pretty sensational. It was Modric, Bale and Rodrigo were the ones that they used. And
didn't even use the likes of Jovic.
Yeah.
He spent £1 billion on.
And I've been talking a bit about this Miguel Delaney piece recently where he was talking about the average age of the players being signed by the top clubs. I think the average age of the players that they've signed recently is like 21, 2 months.
Right.
So they've managed to completely regenerate while playing, I thought, really good football to watch.
Yeah.
It was like very effective football up until the bit where it was not effective.
And it's interesting, like you had Jovic on the bench, not used. You had Cavani on the Paris Saint-Germain bench as well, not used. You kind of, like obviously they've got great number 9s ahead of them in Benzema and Icardi at this point. But the big man up front perhaps losing its lust in the modern football game, as has kind of been the case for a few years now. But you do wonder why Real Madrid actually did get the checkbook out and sign someone like Jovic. Is it like a plan B when things start to go very, very badly? He is a different type of player to the one they've had. But it's interesting as well just to see Cavani on the bench as well at the same time last night.
Jovic only 21 as well.
Yeah. There was talk during the summer that he would be loaned out immediately after being signed, which was never a good thing. It is a step up from Frankfurt to Real Madrid, and being supreme in the Europa League and the Bundesliga to actually doing it in the Champions League and doing it on a night like last night, but a huge amount of time on his side as well.
Yeah, totally. The way you were talking there, I thought he was like 6'6". He's actually 6 foot, according to...
Is that all?
According to Wiki.
Wow, okay. Thought he's bigger. Makes himself look bigger. Good posture, obviously.
He's good in the air, and you know, in the land of the little person, the 6-footer is king.
It's a giant to me.
53 million quid is what they spent on him. Okay, anything else you want to talk about from last night before we tell everybody what's coming up?
The ball boy. The ball boy was the king of the castle last night. Imagine being that guy this morning, going into school and saying, yeah, José Mourinho gave me a big hug. I got the assist. Well, the assist for the assist, really, because two people touched the ball between that and it hitting the back of the net. The ball boy, the winner of last night, the loser, Toby Alderweireld. Like, he's finished. Toby Alderweireld. It would have been interesting, actually, just to see...
Just explain for people who might not have seen this game, because a lot of people are probably watching the other one. What happened with the ball boy?
Well, the ball boy, it was kind of like what happened with Trent Alexander-Arnold's corner kick at Liverpool against Barcelona last year, except this was a throw-in. It comes to a Spurs throw-in.
Is it 2-1 or 2-2 at that stage?
They're 2-1 down at this stage. This is for the equaliser. And the ball boy, it's almost like it just catapults right back to the Spurs player taking the throw-in. Spurs break down the right flank, square the ball, 2-2. And you can see the ball boy is like sitting on the bench then afterwards, and José Mourinho just gives him a big hug.
Not the bench, the ball boy's bench, but yeah. It's not the team bench.
Oh yeah, good point.
Come on.
I saw it yesterday.
Come on, you can.
Isn't that a bit?
Someone else is on the iPad there, buddy.
There's a good line actually from Jonathan Liu's piece this morning on José Mourinho's post-match press conference. He says, "It's not about me," he leered in his press conference afterwards, shortly after boasting about how he had been an intelligent ball boy in his youth, and shortly before announcing to the room that it was his 80th personal Champions League win. It's good. Like, I'm just loving the fact that we finally got José Mourinho back. And I say finally, it's just been the second game. The stakes, when you're 2-0 down, that just kind of awakens a beast inside José Mourinho. I'm sure we've all been there where you walk into a situation where you're like, I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be calm. 5 minutes later, you're like, oh, shit. I just can't not be calm in this situation. That was José Mourinho after half an hour, 40 minutes last night, and that is the José Mourinho we love. And that comes with these weird moments of ecstasy as well, which is like idolising a ball boy on the sideline.
It's kind of the perfect start to this Champions League adventure for Mourinho, because it gives him everything he needs, all the ammunition he needs to go in and beat them up, but they also win with, going away at the end. So there's the surge of confidence that the group gets, and then he can pick off the weak members, look really impressive and hard for doing that, while at the same time winning, and the culture becomes a winning culture. It's like, it's everything he needs. Mm-hmm.
He's found a beautiful situation to at least gives a veneer of transformation at Tottenham this season.
Yeah. All right, here's what's coming up. So Graham Hunter's going to join us around about 8:05 to talk about last night and what's coming up on tonight's menu of Champions League games. If you'd like to get involved in that conversation, you can use the hashtag OTBAM. Conor McManus, we've been dying to get on the show for ages because we wanted to talk to him about the advanced mark and how it's going to change the future of Gaelic football, given that he was one of the best proponents of it during last year's league campaign. But he's only been available to us this week because they've been involved in Ulster Club football action until very recently. And then the conversation I had with Ronaldo at the Web Summit is coming your way around about 9 o'clock. Do the papers next.
OTB AM.
Right. The Times, José's special comeback. That's him looking very intense. His fist raised, and also the picture of the ball boy there. So that's the London Times. And then funding threat after scandal. The 27 million public funding package for UK athletics is under threat after it's forced to cancel the appointment of his new CEO over her husband's inappropriate relationship with an underage girl. I never delved into the details of that, but that phraseology is not, I'm not sure it goes far enough. Anyway, Aubameyang scraps talks. This is the beginning of it now, isn't it? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has shelved contract talks with Arsenal amid concerns over the club's ability to compete for trophies and qualify for the Champions League next season. He's already on 200 grand a week, and it expires at the end of next season. So they've got plenty of time.
Apparently, though, Jack Wilshere was in a similar situation, and he kind of turned the screw. Aaron Ramsey, when he got down to the final 2 years, started to turn the screw as well. Sanchez was in a similar situation. They've been burnt by the 2-year window before.
How have they burned? No burn getting rid of Wilshere or Sanchez.
Like Ramsey was, though. And
Ramsey getting no money for Ramsey, not great.
There's fears around Mesut Ozil in, I think, a similar situation as well.
No fears. Off you go.
It's financial. It's
go.
It's an asset that you're not really getting any money back on whatsoever.
Is Mesut Ozil worth a $5 million to Fenerbahce at this point? Maybe.
Of course he is.
Is he?
Mesut Ozil is
rubbish.
Outside of Aubameyang, Arsenal's best player. He's Arsenal's best player after.
Is he trying to leg at the minute?
Is he what?
Trying to leg.
No.
Right, so no, come on, get him out.
Well, of course, that is it's not just based on your attributes. The most important attribute is attitude, Ger, and it's a big fat zero for Mesut Ozil on that front.
Yeah, well.
That's London Times story is interesting. There was a line in it which I hadn't seen before, which kind of shows just how much pressure Unai Emery is under. He was due to take part at Guillaume Balaguer's masterclass series at University Campus of Football Business in London on Friday, but the event has been cancelled.
Oh.
So Unai Emery is clearly in a position, himself and Guillaume on the phone. Listen, Guillaume, not going to be able to make that, cancel the whole event, mate. Barcelona are considering the move for Aubameyang is the line from that. And then the other Arsenal story this morning is on the back of the Irish Daily Mail, setting their sights on Nuno Espirito Santo. Another story about a potential Arsenal manager, a double byline here, and no real information, to be quite honest. It just says that Raul Sanllehi has a long-standing relationship with Jorge Mendes, and that's it.
So what's going on?
He represents Santo.
And so what? Sorry. So
the two pieces of information in this article are, one, that Sanllehi, who is football director at Arsenal, has a relationship with Jorge Mendes.
So they're interested in getting...
Yeah, if you want to make that leap. And the other thing is that Arsenal don't want to, or know that it'll be difficult to appoint a manager who's at a club already mid-season, so that they might actually give Lundberg and Steve Bowles the job until the end of the year. I don't know, that's not a news story, it's an exclusive, it's a double byline at the back of the Irish Mail.
That is news, right? That they're interested in the Wolves manager, we didn't know that before.
But it's emerged as a leading candidate rather than Arsenal being interested. They've said that this guy has a relationship with this guy, therefore they must be interested in the person. So I'm not convinced. I'm just seeing these stories about Pochettino. I'm seeing these stories now about Nuno. I just don't see any meat on the bone in these stories that Arsenal are actually interested in making a move.
Would you take him?
You would take him over Unai Emery. In the list of candidates, he'd be right behind Pochettino, I would actually say. He'd be fighting for Mikel Arteta for that second spot, I would say, and then Allegri as your fourth choice. The main story there, though, is Harry is José's hero.
The Racing Post. Coleman purring over OK Corral in Ladbrokes. Aidan Coleman already relishing the ride in Paisley Park at Newbury on Friday. Could be in line for a dream 24 hours in Berkshire after it emerged he would likely partner the Nicky Henderson-trained OK Corral, 6-1 favourite for Saturday's Ladbrokes Trophy, and hopes high Kenboy will get entry for Savills Chase. Brett Graham, a significant shareholder in the banned Supreme Horse Racing Club, is confident Kenboy will be among the entries for the Savills Chase at Leopardstown when they close at noon today. So we'll keep an eye on that story for you across the day on offtheball.com. And then top dogs, Liverpool versus Napoli. Liverpool to seal last 16 spot as group winners. That's the expectation.
The Guardian lead with Spurs naturally 4-2 against Olympiacos last night, and striking impact is the headline. Mourinho's home debut marked by a stirring win, and that article I mentioned by Jonathan Liu. Prowling like a particularly haughty house cat, Mourinho had done it again. That is the story from the Champions League last night.
So, you saw Killian Sheridan tweeting last night?
Oh, what was his latest tale?
Pochettino's 15-year-old son, Daniele, where is it? Incredible, you couldn't write the stuff. The ball boy that helped Spurs win their second goal is Pochettino's youngest son, Flavio, who plays in the under-15s at Spurs. But, in our comments right now on YouTube, it's like, Paul Leonard, someone was saying the ball boy's Poch's son. That can't be true. Trevor Costello, yeah, I heard that as well. Plays for the under-15s at Spurs. And then James, and then, Jesus, that can't be right. He would have left with his dad. Lads. To Paul Leonard, Trevor Costello and James Lennon, I salute you. And I've got a chocolate teapot to sell you here as well. The Israeli Sports Channel just quoted this as something real, according to somebody on Twitter last night as well. So, Killian Sheridan, his fake news account, is reeling them in.
Back page of the Sun this morning is let's hear it for the boy. Quick thinking, Kieran Kane to the rescue. Ilkay and sloppy City dig. Manchester City drew 1-1 with Shakhtar last night, but they've qualified as group winners anyway. And West Ham are eyeing David Moyes. So we've got a battle royale between West Ham United and Everton for the services of David Moyes.
I don't understand it.
If you had told me that David Moyes has already managed West Ham in the last 3 years, I'd be like, oh yeah, fair enough. I remember that period.
Do you?
You could actually make that up and be like, oh yeah, that happened. Like, it all just gets jumbled into the whole Sunderland era, the post-Manchester United era. Is it Sociedad? Is it Sunderland? Is it West Ham? Did he manage Middlesbrough for a while? You could name any of those clubs at me and I'd be like, yeah, fair enough, David Moyes. I just thought it's just such an irrelevance what happened to David Moyes after Manchester United for me.
Yeah, but he did manage West Ham, you know that, right?
Yeah, I did.
Like, I wasn't sure if you were...
But then when I actually thought about it this morning, I was like, hold on a minute. He actually did manage West Ham United.
Yeah.
And so it's an actual return to West Ham rather than a first time. So it's 2 returns possibly on the cards.
Well, it's his, you know, obviously he's a good lover.
He clearly is.
His exes want to go and duke it out for him.
Well, I'm like, you're completely against the whole Everton going for David Moyes thing. Is it too romantic to say that Everton would be a better fit for David Moyes and vice versa than West Ham would be? I think the answer to that question is probably yes.
I'm not sure. I don't know if any of these are fit for Moyes at the moment, are they? Like, Moyes needs to get out there and prove again that he can do what he used to be able to do. And I don't know if there's anywhere that he's done that recently enough. I mean, look, he kept West Ham up that time, but I don't even remember that team playing particularly good football. The Star this morning, game of throw-ins. Hey, do you know what they're doing there? Do you see
I've heard about that television show.
I mean, it's the Game of Thrones Twitter account tweeted "Winter's coming" 2 days ago, and it immediately exploded. I think it's the first time they've tweeted anything in a while.
Winter arrived a while ago now.
I know, unless there's like, look, that was we're sorry about that. We've actually got the real final season coming. We've changed our minds.
It's actually a parody.
It's a choose your own adventure. So they've got the Aubameyang story, Real and Barcelona both apparently in for them. I don't believe that Real have any interest in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I can't see that being part of their way of signing things at the moment, unless you're going to swap somebody out for it. And Cork City could be the target of a New Year takeover by a locally based consortium. John Caulfield would be in line to return as manager if the deal goes through. So a bit of intrigue around Cork City at the moment as well.
The Daily Telegraph leads with comeback kings, Kane double, quick thinking ball boy, and early substitution give Mourinho opening home win and Champions League progress. The Herald then goes with Jurgen Klopp. Let's top it all off. Reds boss wants Euro place sewn up early. Picture there of Serge Aurier celebrating with Christian Eriksen and Spurs' 4-2 win last night. Dublin reward for North, meanwhile. Northern Ireland's reward for possible Euro 2020 playoff win over the Republic next year would be the guarantee of 2 group games at the finals in Dublin. And then the story that's been running all week in the Herald, the 50 best dubs of the millennium.
What numbers are we into? 30 to 20?
30 to 21, yeah. At number 30, you've got Paddy Christie. Number 29, you've got Conal Keaney. Number 28 is Shane Ryan. J.O. is at number 27. Ger Brennan is number 26. At number 25, we have Barry Cahill. Number 24 is Dennis Bastick. Paddy Andrews comes in at number 23. Brian Cullen is 22. And Brian Howard is number 21.
Brian Howard, only 21. What was his first year? 2017?
2018, I think, actually.
So he's only two All-Ireland medals?
Yeah, I think it's only his second season, yeah.
Is it? All right, okay, fair enough. Well, that's pretty good to have 1/5 of the available time and to be in the top 20, top 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's been unbelievable start to his career. Like with the top 20, obviously it's going to be tough to break into. No Kieran Whelan yet, so he might be the only one of the non-All-Ireland winning bunch who will make this top 20.
So who's the top ranking non-All-Ireland winner so far? Paddy Christie. Paddy Christie won All-Ireland?
Barry Cahill. Oh, no. No, Barry Cahill was there in 2011. J.O.
Jay obviously won in the
95,
90s.
but not of the current generation.
Yeah.
Shane Ryan? Shane Ryan wasn't there in 2011.
No.
So he's currently...
Shane Ryan won an All-Star and then they didn't have room for him in the squad the next year. That was the
ruthless nature of Dublin in the noughties.
Well, it was Pat Gilroy who came in. He was... they were like, look, that's not what we're looking for from our players with transition. The Mirror this morning. José's Greek gifts. Eek! Is highlighted there so you can tell that, it was difficult enough for them. Barca and Real set to move on. Unhappy Aubameyang is the story that everybody seems to have. West Ham and Everton in battle for Moyes, and Shaq and Boer. Man City were well below their best. They qualified for the Champions League group stages last night is the headline on that one.
Irish Times lead with Spurs last night. Spirited Tottenham come back. A fitting welcome for José Mourinho. A couple of interesting stories in the Irish Times as well. Today, a bit more detail on the 4-year ban, which will not affect Russia's Euro 2020 participation. And I'll tell you why it's not going to affect their Euro 2020 participation. It's because the international standard for code compliance by signatories, the famous ISCCS,
Great, yeah.
which sets out the rules for anti-doping breaches, does not define UEFA as a major event organisation. So you can only ban Russia with a blanket ban for major events.
So the World
Euro
Cup.
2020, not going to be a major event. Has nothing to do, of course, with the fact that Russia are going to be hosting some of Euro 2020 in St. Petersburg. It's to do with the fact that UEFA is only concerned with a single sport and it isn't global. So this could be lifted, or it could be brought in again for Qatar 2022, were they to be suspended. A blanket ban could come in. Like, it's a story that obviously has been kind of doing the rounds for a while. The lifting of the blanket ban after the last Winter Olympics, and then the controversy over handing over data. WADA weren't happy with that, USADA weren't happy with that, and the data provided in January was neither complete nor fully authentic when it was handed over, and that some of the alleged deletion of data took place in December 2018 and January 2019 after WADA had requested the data under the terms of reinstatement. Very handy if somebody kind of shows up and you can just press delete before handing this stuff over. It's like, give us all your data. We'll ban you from things. No problem at all. Just call over to the office there and we'll give it to you.
It is pretty handy, isn't it?
Just press delete and that gives them the floppy disk.
You've got a lot of stuff in the Examiner marked out. Here's the Examiner cover, and it's Honeymoon in London, and it's Dele Alli and José Mourinho. They've been full-blown loving each other so far in public. You've got the
Barcelona stuff is interesting. We'll get into it with Graham Hunter a little bit later on, but it's Dermot Corrigan's piece today, which is really interesting. Kind of just a reminder of...
Griezmann's a sub, £120 million sub.
Yeah, so at the weekend they went for Messi, Dembele, Griezmann and Suarez together in a 4-2-4 formation. That was the first time they've all started together. It just didn't work, and Corrigan's making the point that Barca are now worryingly reminiscent of Argentina, where everybody just gives Messi the ball. They've forgotten how to play, says Catalan reporter Ramon Beza. He says that the team have lost their trademark midfield control and they just are desperate for a Xavi or an Iniesta, and that there is just increased pressure as well on Valverde, that despite the fact that he was, of course, a former Barcelona player, he's not seen as in the clique of Barcelona legends or a true Barca man. What Messi really thinks of the current situation is unclear, but the usually reticent public speaker has been clear that he felt the team needed Neymar last summer, while not denying he could, in theory, break his contract unilaterally and leave next year. So that is alarm bells ringing at Barcelona Football Club. We'll get Graham Hunter's take on that very shortly, because that is huge, huge worry that if Messi wants somebody, you probably go out and you try your very, very best to get that guy.
I think they did try their best, though, right? I think that they just couldn't make it work. This is his 700th Barcelona game tonight. Did you read it? You did read it. Do you know how many goals?
I've come already from this. What is it, 520 or something?
612 in 700. It's insane.
Just go back to the Irish Times for a moment. Gordon Darcy's column is "We need to get beyond schools to grow the game." It's an interesting piece. He kind of says that a lot of the stuff that he says in this, he has written about before. But it's worth having this conversation every so often about the problem of players and falling away between primary school to secondary school, and where the development is for players perhaps outside of the academies and outside of private schools, that the fall-off in participation rates at club level has mutated the Munster GAA, or Munster DNA, I should say, when it comes to rugby, is one of the things that I'm looking at here, and it has kind of stuck out to me that, you know, we speak to Alan Quinlan a lot, Ronan O'Gara, and all that great Munster era that came through the club scene in Munster, which of course has been devastated over the past 10, 15 years. And the lack of focus on clubs, Darcy believes, is the root cause for Munster's inability to produce a flood of homegrown talent. And this is obviously a conversation we've had quite a bit. You know, you would jokingly say that the Leinster Academy is propping up Munster. The truth is that they're probably doing that to all the other 3 provinces at the moment, and the other 3 provinces are having real struggles in terms of churning out top quality young rugby players. Darcy says Munster must rediscover the old pathway, or they can keep recruiting South Africans and maintain short-term growth that way. The biggest challenge facing Irish rugby at the moment is the numbers in drop-off when it comes to teenagers and young adults. He'd love to see how the IRFU are tackling that. And he says one way would be by allowing a person to stay connected to their club from mini rugby all the way up to adults teams to keep that connection between the two. And then the other interesting point, which I hadn't really kind of heard made before, is that real and sustainable change will probably only occur in Irish rugby when the first generation of professional players begin to infiltrate the IRFU committee structure. We are in our 40s now, so it will take another 10 to 15 years before my peers rise to positions of influence. He's not by any means having a pop off David Nucifora in this piece at all. He's actually quite complimentary to the work that Nucifora is doing, but he's making the point that it's not just the golden generation of Irish rugby or the first professionals that need to go into coaching. They also need to go into the structural committees and bodies that actually run Irish rugby, because they know what it takes.
Yeah, but the difficulty is that as soon as they get into those committees, aren't they going to just become a function of the committee? That a Politburo in any organisation has been successful over multi-generations because they have a way of doing things that no one's ever going to influence, no one's ever going to change, that the Blazers stay the Blazers, and that you know, it's like Westminster, it's like any corporate bullshit buzz speak. It just becomes too powerful. It's a uniculture. So it'd be great to see them all getting involved at that level now, as opposed to when their time comes and they've served their 20 years in committees. But I don't think that's going to change. It's the IRFU don't seem like they're an organisation primed for change and self-reflection and analysis. David Nucifora is doing the review of what happened. Like, it was his job to put together everything that happened, and I'm sure at various stages Schmidt would have been saying, well, this is what we're doing, this is what our plan is. So ultimately he's rubber stamping that the whole way along, and he's conducting the review into it. That's not a great system, is it?
Not very independent of...
Well, it's like, what if he made mistakes along the way?
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was absolutely perfect. It was, maybe Nucifora has nothing to answer, but wouldn't you like to have somebody other than him say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's truth in that, and it's not necessarily kind of pointing the finger at Nucifora and saying that there was clear failings here. It just helps if somebody else is actually taking a look at your work, and somebody a little bit removed from the situation. I think Darcy's thing about those people getting into committees in 10, 15 years, I'm not sure, is that kind of a slight at the general age profile of people at committees?
Totally, yeah.
But they just need to wait till
the killer line was the line about Munster, which you kind of brushed over that there. Just do it again.
So Munster must rediscover their old pathway, or they can keep recruiting South Africans and maintain short-term growth that way. He does make the point that Joey Carberry at number 10 and RG Snyman up front will probably win them a European Cup over the next couple of years, or will get them within shooting distance of winning a European Cup. But is that sustainable success in the future? Perhaps not. What if the South Africans all of a sudden come up with a brand new pathway where actually everybody's really happy to stay in South Africa or something like that? That is a danger that kind of comes with all of that. No matter what your stance is on this, there is no negative way of looking at the prospect of Munster re-energising the club game or producing more players through the club game and getting it back to its old vibrant self, or some fraction of that at least. There can be no way of looking at that as a negative outcome.
All right, it is 5 minutes past 8 this morning here. You are watching OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. Oh, a few more papers left. I've got one actually in my turn for the Indo this morning, and they have the story that we had last night. Ryan to meet with O'Leary over Mayo funding row. Director General keen to find positive outcome to standoff surrounding foundation's 250 grand. So, we had this story last night at 10:30. GAA set to meet with Mayo millionaire donor, which is interesting. It's obviously the Mayo County Board officials met with Thom Ryan, the Director General of the GAA, and in correspondence that we've seen, Thom Ryan wrote back to them and said, he understands the difficult situation they find themselves in, and that he would be happy to meet with O'Leary, and he would hope that everybody would refrain from making further public comment on this until the matter is resolved.
I wonder how that meeting between Tom Ryan and Tim O'Leary goes. Hey Tim, you've got 250 grand there. Do you mind handing it over?
Well, I think it's
no, Tom, I won't.
Well, I think
then
it's I would assume you have concerns about governance. We are the ultimate arbiter of what good governance is. You, as a fundraising body, can't actually fundraise for us without having somebody from the county board on your board. Do you have somebody from the county board? So technically, you're not really allowed to fundraise. That would be if we give you guarantees that this money will go where it's supposed to go, and we say that we'll put somebody in short term to make sure that happens. You're going to have to hand the money over. And you're also, if you want to fundraise in future, you're going to have a GAA representative on your board. That's how that conversation goes.
See, it seems reasonable. It seems reasonable.
Like, I'm not entirely on one side in this whole thing. I think that, like, it's great that the GAA at central level are getting involved and saying, we're going to help the Mayo County Board, because they need help. It's got to the point where the whole situation has got wildly out of control. And, like, here is somebody with a strong financial background who understands exactly what's supposed to happen and all the procedures, and he's going to come in and say, well, look, hang on a second, you did raise this money on behalf of Mayo GAA. You have to give the money to Mayo GAA. We're going to make sure that it goes where it's supposed to go.
I wonder what level of fatigue the GAA feel deep down in the situation now, where there has been a couple of county boards in spots of bother here and there. Obviously, with the story about Cork last year and GAA potentially getting involved in trying to salvage that.
Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Mayo now, like it comes back to the kind of overall
before
point.
that.
Yeah, the overall point here is that things are getting out of control for county boards. The figures are getting bigger, the stakes are getting higher, and Croke Park, I don't know what Croke Park do here, because every county board probably needs some level of autonomy.
Well, yeah, I think that we talked about this before with the East Leinster project. The provincial councils have a big role to play in that they all have administrative staff who are well qualified and who understand exactly how county boards work, and they could be the devolved local government that actually provides the back-end services of accountancy, auditing, regulatory, all the stuff that you're supposed to do in a business. They could provide that for the county. So you could have somebody whose job it was to look after Wexford and Wicklow. You could have somebody whose job it was to look after Kildare and Carlow and Laois. Like, that's where, you could devolve that so it's not just all done from Croke Park. So the Connacht Council, if they have 3 or 4 employees who are accountants, they could be running all that kind of stuff for them and making sure that all of this stuff is run properly. I think there's definitely a model there.
But there needs to be a model. The current guise of the GAA and administration just simply isn't good enough. It's not only the matter that Mayo GAA found themselves in the situation, and I'd have a lot of sympathy for them finding themselves in their situation. It's also about how they've handled this, and there doesn't seem to be any appetite for them to actually take huge lessons from this or actually be contrite in what's actually happened. And the sympathy that you would have had for them at the very start of the story emerging seems to have waned a little bit over the past month or two, without question. So I think it's inevitable that Croke Park have had to step in. I'd just be very eager to see what the resolution is here and what Croke Park can do in terms of providing Tim O'Leary with what he needs document-wise.
Yeah, but also, like, Tim raised the money on behalf of Mayo GAA, so he needs to give to Mayo GAA. Mm-hmm. Like, didn't he?
He did, but he raised the money on the premise that
it was going to Mayo GAA.
Specific areas of Mayo GAA, which he feels he does not have full clarity on those specific areas. And
well, were the people who bought the tables, did they?
Like, this is
they all sign up to his definition of what that was? And also, did he have somebody from the Mayo County Board on his board? And if not, then it's unofficial. Like,
there has to be a level of onus on Mayo County Board for not having a member of their board on his board as well.
No, there isn't.
There kind of is, though.
There isn't. He sets up this body that says...
It's a two-way street.
No, because it's in the GAA's rules that if you're fundraising for a county, then somebody from the county board has to be on it. So if you set up a funding organisation, it's on you to make sure that you're compliant with the rules of the organisation you're raising money for, right?
But it's also
you go off and you do this thing.
It's compliant on the county board as well to affiliate themselves with it, to promote this thing, to make this thing look like it was fully official. Like that. Like if the county board had any sort of reservations,
we're not going to take your money unless you put one of us on.
Well, that reservation.
It's his job to know the rules of the thing that he's doing.
I'm not necessarily sure it's exclusively his job.
Well,
I think that
it's like maybe 90-10 as opposed to. It's not
I don't know about that. I don't know if it's 90-10.
Well, you go off and you take the name of Mayo GAA and you start raising money.
Give the name of Mayo GAA
You sell tickets to a massive event on the basis of that, right? Like, and everybody's going, I'm buying this to give money to Mayo GAA, and you're like, well, actually, maybe, I'm just going to hold off to make sure that it goes to this little part of Mayo GAA that I decide it's going to.
Which would have been predetermined. But
I didn't know that when I'm buying tickets. I'm just going to celebrate.
What we've got here is just two different accounts. Like, we're as entitled to believe O'Leary as we are to believe the Mayo County Board, and he's making the point that it was predetermined where it would go to, and he would get proof for that, and that proof has not been forthcoming. This is an event, let's not forget, that took place in the United States of America, where tax authorities can clamp down on things pretty quickly. Like there's elements of that as well, where he needs exact proof of where that exact money that was raised in the United States is going to. I don't think it's 90-10. I think it's closer to 50-50.
All right, 11 minutes past 8 this morning here on OTBAM. Let's move on and talk some European football. Graham Hunter is with us. Graham, we were talking about Dermot Corrigan's piece in the Examiner today. He was pointing out that we might have a £120 million sub tonight because the performance of the weekend wasn't that good when Las Cuatros Fantásticos all started.
Who's Dermot talking about? And by the way, Dermot, what a fantastic writer. What is that about Ireland? What's in the water or the Guinness or the tea that produces such a swathe of fantastic sports journalism? Something I should have said before. I did say on the big interview with Pat Nevin, we both agreed that it's extraordinary. Dermot's a very good export. He's talking about Dembélé, right?
No, he thinks Dembélé is going to start tonight.
Listen. If you want to say the Cuatro Fantásticos, this is a far more advanced breakfast sports show than that, because if you just say, well, Valverde decided to put the four big players on, that's not the right way to look at it. It makes a good headline, and they did all play, and it is how the Spanish media talk about it. But what he decided to do was play 4-2-3-1, something that he's dabbled with now and again. When he changed halfway through the Inter game at home, it completely changed how Barcelona performed. There is massive evidence, I think, that 4-2-3-1, when properly executed and possibly without Busquets in the team, which they haven't been able to cope with thus far, and Valverde is clearly, if you take Dermot's point and use the compass and swivel at 180 degrees, as much as Valverde may see Griezmann with massive amount of development to come, and he may be frustrated as all hell, poor Valverde's head will turn up like mine if he tears all his hair out watching Dembélé fail to do completely do infantile things and fail to control the ball and put his team in difficulty and give away goals because of it. What he did was he changed the structure, and that allowed those four players to perform together. But he didn't go, God, I have to have all four of them on. He changed the structure because Barcelona are looking rocky away from home at 4-3-3. Busquets is a real problem, partly because of what's going on around him, partly because he's not all that athletic, and partly because even though Busquets is a monster of a player, his confidence, his belief in what's happening around him has eroded, and that's the problem. That's the key problem. When they all played together, was Griezmann particularly impressive? No. Was he pissed off when he got substituted? Yes. Was he worse than Dembélé, who stayed on the pitch? No. And that coming from somebody who's a Dembélé fan. Dermot might be right. It might be that Griezmann's on the bench. And I would have thought, if you look at how Dortmund play, if you look at the pace of their work, if you look at the fact that Griezmann can be used to be the first shackle on Jadon Sancho, and if you imagine that Dembélé is an awful tracker back, failed to hold the ball up and helped to give away the goal at Lega this weekend, I'd be a little bit surprised, but not massively surprised, that when it comes down to it, I think the 11 almost picks itself. It's a defence that you won't be able to believe because of suspensions and injuries, lads. But it would be a risky thing to say to Dembélé, you've earned a start against Dortmund in an absolutely crucial match, because if they draw or lose this match, they go to Inter needing to win to make sure they don't go out of the group. So if Dembele starts on the open spaces of the Camp Nou and has a blinder, fair play. And I'm not disagreeing with Dermot. I'm rather applying my own logic that I think Griezmann, in given how hard he works and given the fact that they have to make him contribute more than he is, whereas Dembele is literally just giving exactly the same sort of stuff every 2 or 3 matches, a mixture of absolute blinding brilliance and nonsense. I think Griezmann starts, and were I, and you know me to be a cavalier person, who you might imagine I'd be saying, get Dembele on, turn them, run them, make sure they're stretched, frighten them, make sure Dortmund commit bookable challenges, which is what Dembele draws. Tonight, I still think I would start Griezmann.
We were talking earlier about Messi's 700th game tonight, 612 goals so far, and still a residual unhappiness with the fact that Neymar wasn't ultimately what they ended up getting last summer. Is there a residual distaste in Messi's mouth about that? Is there a sense that this might be coming to an end at the moment, or is this just mid-season, things aren't great at the minute, it'll all fix itself in 5 or 6 weeks?
I think you're flushing out the fact that France Football claimed to have got hold of a text communication between Neymar and Messi. Well, how did they do that? I'm not sure. I won't decry other journalists' work if they claim it to be true. I just don't know if it's true. And in that text communication, which happened immediately after Anfield, Messi was supposed to have said, I've got maximum 2 more seasons here. I need you. I can't win the Champions League without you. Blah, blah, blah. I've interviewed Messi 23, 24 times, short, medium, and long form. I've watched him since before he debuted in the first team, in fact. I've chatted to his family occasionally. I've chatted to the people that work in his entourage. It's not the way that Messi functions, Ger. I think it's both a good and entertaining story for we chroniclers of football to write. And if mid-season they find themselves knocked out of the Champions League, which I've said arithmetically can still happen if they don't make a big performance tonight, and if they find Madrid pulling away from them, and I have Madrid as my favourites for the title, irrespective of Barcelona being top of La Liga today, then would he return to the situation? Why didn't you get Neymar when you were supposed to? Why did you buy Griezmann instead of Neymar? Why didn't you listen to me? It's so unfair. Maybe he might come back to that. Right now, we're talking about a footballer who's constructed the way as our makers created great white sharks. They're on the planet for a purpose. Theirs is to swim and eat, and Messi's equivalent is to swim and eat, to turn up to play to win, He doesn't dilly-dally with a lot of that nonsense about woe is me, or why did... Neymar hasn't contributed significantly to Paris Saint-Germain so far this season. Had they bought him and the same physical condition occurred to Neymar, then right now we'd be sitting saying, what the hell did he spend all that extra money on Neymar for, etc., etc. I was at Real Madrid last night. Neymar came on and transformed them without necessarily being one of his 10 out of 10 matches. I see why Messi's obsessed by Neymar. I see why he urged the club to try and sign him. Did the club try hard enough? Does he believe they tried hard enough? You might be right, Ger. Is he sitting with sucking his thumb and with a petted lip? Absolutely, no question. He's not. And you asked about, is it coming to the end? It's too big a subject for this morning in a short space of time. But I imagine that if that text communication was accurately reported, his mood after Anfield and his mood today could conceivably be 2 different things. A
quick point. You mentioned Real Madrid last night. They're playing really good football at the minute. They look good to watch. They look like they've got a purpose. They look like their identity is fairly well set.
For some weeks now, and I want to exclude the 1-0 defeat at Mallorca, where he turned the team around incorrectly because of the importance of the upcoming match in Istanbul. For some weeks now, I've been thrilled to watch them. They press, they win, they scrabble, they rake the ball off teams. They're working in pockets of 2s, 3s, and 4s to win the ball back, and the transition of what they do with the ball then is almost unerringly smart, not just quick, but clever. There are footballers, Zidane's footballers, who individually are reaching 8 or 9 out of 10 performances at the moment. Didn't play last night, Mondi, but Mondi looks better than Marcelo, and that's saying something. Courtois, halfway through this part of the season, looked lost, was being booed. currently is a rock. Benzema, best form of his career. You could go across things, but what was interesting to me last night, two things, plus minus. One, Zidane picked Isco, who he's not been fond of in recent months. It was Isco's first start since last December. He'd started 2 games in La Liga this season, a draw against Valladolid at home and a defeat to Mallorca. So throwing Isco in, out of position, and getting a blinder of a performance out of him tells you something really important. Zidane, in his first spell, had this queue of players on the bench, ready and hungry to come on and impact. He's got the first team right. If the queue of players ready to come on and impact, then they're a threat in Europe and they'll win the title. The negative was his game reading has sometimes been, and I interviewed Tuchel at length last night. Tuchel was pretty savage about his own team's performance, not happy. And the goals came late, that's a statistical fact. When Valverde went off, and Valverde is the key, Madrid looked less sure of themselves, allowed themselves to make more positional and concentration mistakes than they had when Valverde was on. And that I'm using this, Ger, because Valverde all season has been brilliant. If people don't know Fede Valverde, the Uruguayan youngster, who Zidane didn't rate in his first spell at Madrid, he's been exceptional. He's going to develop into an exceptional world-class midfielder. And when he went off, it's no coincidence, it's not directly, oh, look, that was Valverde's ball. But when he went off, Madrid changed and they lost 2 goals, the second of which was a brilliant finish from Sarabia, ex-Real Madrid. So, in summary, yes, you're right, which I could have said quickly, Real Madrid are damn good to watch. And last night was hell of a fun.
Graham, great stuff. Thanks for joining us this morning, man. Cheers.
See you, lads.
It's Graham Hunter with us, giving us a quick overview of what's happening with Barca and Real. Loads more to talk to Graham about, and we'll get him on again very soon. 22 minutes past 8. Before we leave football, I want to talk about this. Damien Delaney here talking about getting an impromptu post-match team talk from José Mourinho. Have a look.
Oh, I like him, man. I really do. You know, I mean, I remember even little things like, you know, when we were at Crystal Palace and we were struggling to stay up our first year. You know, we went to Chelsea and we lost 1-0 narrowly. And I remember Tony Pulis was like, you know, speaking, and like next thing the doors flung open in Stamford Bridge. And normally someone opens the door, because they normally put like someone on the door, the kitman or something, to keep the door shut, you know. But obviously, the kitman saw José's coming in, he scouted his way into it, in you go, José.
Yes, Mr. Mourinho.
So when the door slung open, Tony Pulis stood, and when he saw it was José, and José just walked into the middle of the room and just took our team talk for us at the end of it. And even Tony Pulis took a step back and went to the back of the room, you know. And I just think that he has that. You know.
So he was saying, like, well played.
He said, you guys, honestly, he said, if you guys need to play like that every week. He said, I love you guys so much. You guys are so good. I really didn't like, it really made us feel good about ourselves. I know it sounds really petty, like, but we were struggling. The manager was trying to put a positive spin on it, but we've heard that week in, week out. And then José comes in with the trench coat and just like, you know, and then shakes everyone's hands, gives the old slap on the face. You do these Stamford Bridge, genuinely thinking, God, we might be a good team, you know, and I just...
swagger on the east out of that building, oh my God.
Exactly, and I just thought, you know, and he did that a couple of times, you know, even when we beat them at Sellers Park, John Terry scored an own goal. It was really late in the season, and it pretty much paid to their chances of winning the league. We won 1-0, and I think it was like our game staying up, and the same thing.
Right, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good guy, José Mourinho.
Well, I wonder, is part of it, there might be some of these lads that I want to sign in 5 or 6 months, and they'll be like, well, that guy, yeah, of course I'm going to sign for you. Why is there an ulterior motive? Or was he just being good? Just being good, I think. Just being good. Like, can we not have a little bit more faith in humanity? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, yeah. That's your theme this morning. Right, so there are many games in the Champions League tonight. What are we watching? Give us a quick off-the-cuff power rankings. Tonight is, like I said at the top of the show, it's tough to find a disappointing night of Champions League action. As far as group stages go, tonight's an epic night before a ball is even being kicked. Like right from the start, you could make an argument for either of the early kickoffs, which are Zenit against Lyon and Valencia against Chelsea. You're obviously going to pick Valencia against Chelsea because it's Chelsea and there is more on the line. They're both on 7 points in that group that has turned into a battle royale for the top 2 spots, because Ajax are also on 7 points. But don't write off the Lyon Zenit game just yet either, because if Zenit get the job done there, and it is on in St. Petersburg tonight, they will go level on points with Lyon on that magic number 7. So those 2 early games are both crackers, which is disappointing, of course, for anybody who wanted to get a nap
people who are up early in the morning before the 8 o'clock kickoffs. Not going to happen tonight. Valencia against Chelsea. You might be dual screening for the early games. And then it's one or the other really at 8 o'clock. Barcelona against Dortmund or Liverpool against Napoli. All things considered, Barcelona against Dortmund is the game of the day. But of course, there'll be a lot of Liverpool fans watching against a quality Napoli side as well. Like the rest of the games, like Leipzig against Benfica, on any other day, you'd be looking at that and saying to yourself, that's a quality game as well. The rest of them then, I think, probably fall a little bit below the expectancy. You've got Slavia Prague against Inter Milan. Like, I guess Inter, if they win that, they're in business. But
Inter are good. Everybody really rates Inter this season.
Yeah, but as a contest tonight, they should beat Slavia Prague. You got Lille against Ajax in that one. Lille, obviously, basement dwellers in that particular group. Genk against Red Bull, also at 8 o'clock in that game. The picture there really is that they're both going to be out of the picture unless Red Bull actually get the business done there in Liverpool and Napoli's group. And then the other one, as I've already mentioned, is Leipzig against Benfica. So the power rankings, number 1, it's got to be Barcelona against Dortmund. Number 2, going to go with Valencia, Chelsea, Liverpool, Napoli, and at number 3. And then you want a bit of Leipzig against Benfica or Zenit Lyon, whatever you're having yourself as number 4 or 5.
All right. Here's Ron O'Gara talking on last night's show about JJ Hanrahan's last gasp drop goal attempt against Racing.
Once the defence is in a set position in the starting blocks positions, where they're in sprint position, it makes you change your technique, because by the time you get the pass and you have to get the ball in the air, the advantage is with the defence. But once you actually have the maul going forward or any bit of a forward carry, the unexpected factor, i.e. Johnny against France in Stade de France, he fooled everyone. But probably that was more a distance issue. But once it comes in, there's only one thing. But he just got it on the inside of his foot. Can easily happen. That happens.
But as a kicker, you don't want to be thinking to yourself, I'm about to be charged down, I need to scoop this up early.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you do. But as you say, the flip side to that argument, Joe, is you just take another 7 metres depth.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure that your 9 stings your hands with the pass. That's what you want.
And Camille, do you get a residual kind of flicker in your quad muscle as you're watching them build up for the goal? You get your foot starts tapping, does it?
No, but I think I'd love to have seen JJ do that, because he's had a fair bit of adversity, and that kick from the touchline was brilliant. And I think, from a very selfish point of view, it's why you do all the extras. You're kind of 20 minutes at the end of every team session, and then while your day off is taken up with that's for moments like that. But when you keep knocking on the door will knock down eventually, so he'll get it the next time.
Yeah, there you go. That's the lads there talking about JJ Hanrahan at the weekend. There was a piece in the Examiner today, I think, about the quality of 10s coming through at Munster.
Yeah, there is actually. Talking about, I guess, where they need to go to actually make it to the next step. I don't have the Examiner there beside me. It's Donal Lenihan's column, basically, and there's picture of Conor Fitzgerald on it. Obviously, we had Fitzgerald on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about not making it at Munster and having to go spread his wings elsewhere. It's the kind of irony there is that
it's an interesting case study, isn't it? Because he said that he was only really brought into the Connacht Academy because his school's coach had ended up at Connacht. Wasn't that it?
Yeah.
That was the connection?
Yeah, I think so.
Or somebody involved in the underage. If that connection hadn't happened, he would have been lost to the system. Or could have been lost to the system.
Could have gone off playing hurling to a high level, never picked up a rugby ball again.
Do you know, so there are still, it tallies a little bit with what Gordon Darcy was saying today about making sure that you're getting the most out of all your resources. In Darcy's column, he's obviously specifically focused on the club game, but even within the academy system, I'm sure there are players who could have made it, who aren't making it. Like, maybe Tadhg was always going to continue playing and ended up going to Wales, and it was always a guarantee. But he was also part of the system at Leinster and didn't make it, but is now an absolutely invaluable member of the Munster team.
Mm-hmm. Lenihan's making the point that the conveyor belt of out halves is presenting a lot of promising number 10s in Munster, especially. So just a couple of the other names, like he says, with Irish under-20 Grand Slammers Ben Healy and Jake Flannery taking up the pivotal positions in the Munster Academy, 2 former members managed to make their mark in Europe last weekend. So that would be former Rockwell star Bill Johnson, who played 12 minutes in Ulster's win over Clermont Auvergne. And then even more impressive, of course, as we've already mentioned, is Conor Fitzgerald. Like, you talk about the dearth of opportunities when you get to a good senior level. That has to be the case in Irish rugby. If you've got 10 top-class young 10s coming through in a 3-4 year period, they're not all going to get their opportunities here. Like, you want to keep them within the borders of Ireland. You want them to be playing provincial rugby, but that's not always possible.
No,
and how possible is it for somebody independent of the IRFU to go and seek out opportunities abroad? Like, I don't know, are clubs abroad looking at academies in Ireland and seeing what they're producing and bringing them abroad?
I think so. I think they definitely are. I think that when you look at the success that initially Bernard Jackman had with bringing players over to Grenoble, and a bunch of Irish players who've gone over to France who probably weren't getting a lot of game time, there is definitely agents now who are shopping in the Irish academies for English clubs and for French clubs. But like, ultimately they're going to have to look at what the pathway is, and as the global game explodes and all the money comes in from CVC, why don't we buy a team in England? Why don't we buy London Irish? Like, why don't we buy a team in America? Like,
the IRFU actually goes out and buys this team.
Yeah, why not? It has another province. Like, it seems wild. Oh, we've got no money, we couldn't afford to do it. But actually, they could if they put together the right package. If they sought some outside investment, they could sell an Irish rugby bond to rich people, basically, who wanted to invest in Irish rugby and have a team in the Premiership, have a team in America. Like, why not?
It's well, I can think why not. It's like not on this island. It's a huge geographical leap to be made. It's on a different league that isn't the Pro 14. You're not playing in the same league. There are different circumstances for different players.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you have a field of influence which extends beyond your own.
Do the players for London Irish and for whatever New York team you're thinking about here, do they get to play for Ireland?
Yeah, of course. They're contracted by the RFU.
So then, what if a player moves to Saracens? Then are they allowed to play for Ireland?
Well, maybe that's what
the
you say.
RFU's London Irish.
Maybe you say no. Maybe, I don't know. Like, all that stuff can be teased out, right?
Well, no, they're teasing it out now. I'm just wondering what your thought process is on it.
Like, we don't have enough.
It's a case not then just.
We're limited to having 120 full-time professional first teamers essentially, and we're always going to have 10% of those be foreign, because that's what you need to invest and re-inject different ideas into your setup. The English League is on a path, and it's going to be very interesting to see what that path is into the future. We have no involvement in that. We have no influence in that. We have no way of knowing exactly what's being said behind closed doors, apart from through soft diplomacy. Why not just buy a club?
It would be a great marketing opportunity as well for whatever sponsor wanted to get on board for that IRFU run, London Irish as well. It could actually be semi-profitable. I wonder, is there a possibility...
You'd be running it for profit. Like it
yeah.
wouldn't be semi-profitable. You'd be running it because that league's going to start making money eventually.
Are the teams going to make money?
Eventually, yeah, because the investment that has come in from
CVC,
yeah, has given everybody a cash flow that some of them are going to blow, but some of them won't, and some of them will become profitable. Like, I don't know, maybe the English League is doomed, and this is the stupidest idea of all time, but it's certainly worth thinking about. What would the cost be? How long would it be to be profitable? And what if it's not difficult at all? Because you're just taking that second tier of players who can't make the first team squad from your academies at Leinster. So 3 years ago, that would have been that entire young back row, or 2 years ago, it would have been that entire back row.
Dan Levy, Max Deegan, Kellen Doris.
Yeah, who all go over and are absolutely sensational straight away.
And then what is the makeup of your London Irish team? Are you signing players from Premiership clubs?
No, Irish players.
So it's just Irish players?
Well, what's the point?
So they would all be worse than your 4 provinces?
Why would they be worse?
Because they're rejects at the start. Of course, they will get better.
Well, so they
will get better. Don't get me wrong.
But they don't have to be rejects. Like, you can move James Ryan over if you want. If he wants to go and live in London for 2 years, you can move James Lowe over. You can move Bundy Aki over.
What about your beloved Leinster against Munster rivalry?
What about it?
It's still, if you're taking Leinster Munster players and actually moving them out of the country, then it's
the Leinster Munster rivalry, which is now
the interpro,
which has already been diluted. It has already been diluted.
It dilutes it further.
But we know that's going to happen right? That has already happened. That ship has sailed.
Or unless we listen to Gordon Darcy's ideas and actually try our very best to salvage the
that
Munster
as well.
culture.
These aren't. Why are they either or? Why does it have to? Why does everything always this false duality where we have to can only do this thing, we can't think about this other thing over here?
I think it's a radical idea. I'm not I'm kind of thinking out loud here because I haven't heard of this before. The IRFU setting up a fifth province in London or New York.
It would be London, right?
It'd be London.
Not like it's
okay.
But they should definitely be investing in the league in America in case that works too. There's already a bunch of Irish people over there, and that would be small potatoes at the moment to get involved. The point is, right, there's a strong possibility that the leagues end up being stronger than the international teams if rugby continues on the path that it's going at the moment. The whole notion that Saracens might withdraw their players from the Six Nations next year, it's unlikely, but it's been floated by the coach of the England team. So it's not a completely outrageous possibility. And if that power battle continues the way it has done in, say, for example, football, then the unions are going to end up being bystanders as the game evolves and develops into whatever it is that's coming next.
The political intrigue then is going to be the rugby union in England and their relationship with the Premiership to try and actually wrestle back any little bit of control they can get, while the IRFU are walking in, establishing something on what they would feel to be their own patch.
Yeah, and that would be a great idea, because then suddenly you can be friends with the union and saying, geez, you won't believe what they're saying about you behind closed doors, lads. Obviously off the record. But you're in there lobbying away for what you want to happen. Because London Irish are one of the original shareholders, so they've got a 1/12 to 1/13 share in
the new venture.
Yeah. Now, they're going to say, we can't afford it, we've got no money, it's ridiculous. But you need to set up something, you need to give people the opportunity to invest in it, you need to seek for money in London from the Irish abroad, you need to, come on, it's not that hard. If the IRFU wanted to access some cash, they could find it.
And of course, the most important question here is when IRFU take over London Irish, are they sacking Declan Kidney straight away, or are they keeping him, or what's the...
I'd say that would be a good way for them all to make friends again, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but if you want to have growth, where's it going to come from? The other possibility is that what CVC are doing is trying to set up a European Super League. That what they're trying to do is actually take over all of global rugby so that there's a unified rugby calendar and that they own the English League, Pro 14, Six Nations, and ultimately that's a good thing for player welfare, because if CVC own all the players, then they're not going to flog them.
Are they paying their salary? CVC?
No.
In the European Super League?
No,
so
no.
the unions would still have control and the test rugby would still...
The unions, no, the clubs.
So the clubs would have control, but would that dilute the IRFU centralised contracts?
No, because the IRFU own 4 clubs.
Yeah, so that would stay the same. CVC would not come in with their profits and then filter that money towards the players. Because my concern about this is that you suddenly have a different person paying your wages, where I know Pro 14 don't pay Leinster Munster's wages, I know that. But were it to change, that CVC has a bigger amount of say, where it gets to a huge level of commercialism, where they're actually starting to give the players a slice of the pie. And the players are actually earning from this, and that they're not earning their entire salary from the unions.
I don't know how that league would look. Well, I don't know. So
it would be part of, I'm not sure, do the players get a slice of the pie in this newly reformed Super League, in your view?
So that's a separate issue, right? But if there was a European Super League, you would have to assume that a salary cap comes in, and that's how players get a percentage of the pie. So in the NFL, for example, which is the only kind of model that you would be, not the only model, but would be the easiest model, the players get 50% of on-field revenue, right? Mm-hmm. But that goes to them through salary cap.
Right.
That's not they don't take 50% of the TV deals and then distribute the money to the players. What they do is they say 50% of all the revenue generated has to go to the players, and then how that gets distributed is up to the contracts that the players win from the clubs. So the clubs pay them.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I'm probably just being uber paranoid about the fact that whatever happens on a mega level with club rugby could diminish test rugby in some way. Which is,
and I think that's exactly what everybody would be terrified of. But that's why it's interesting that the Six Nations have sold some of their stuff to CVC, because it's actually the Six Nations that drives the TV revenue. And so if you're an investor, you don't want club rugby. You don't believe that club rugby is going to outstrip that revenue because it's such a massive gap for now, and maybe it won't be in the future, but those big games, if you can control the players for the whole season, you can retain the value of the big games by not flogging them here. You rotate them here and then they're all fit for the Six Nations, and you make sure that window is... Then in that instance, if I own the league and Six Nations, Saracens aren't allowed to say, you're not going to have your players because I own the league and I'm saying, this is far more important, you're giving them the players, shut up.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. But like all of that's on the table at the moment, right? What are we doing? Like, keeping our 4 provinces, hoping that they allow us to have all 4 if a European Super League does happen, making sure that the Pro 14 is as successful as it possibly can be, and hopeful that CBC buys that and has an interest in keeping the European Cup. I don't know, like, what happens there? What is the future?
If your idea there has some semblance of reality, the Super League, then something will need to change in the provinces, because it's not a model cut out for an NFL style league, or the commercialism that comes with that. So, like, we are at our limit here, and if we want to expand, which you will need to do to stay in line with this very, very expansive idea, change will need to come.
Yeah. Well, we've got 4 provinces. Like, if you look at the numbers of the teams all around, you could have a 32-team European Super League with local rivalries and local conferences all over the place. It would be fine. It would be really easy to organise.
I'm not convinced.
All right, 8:41 this Wednesday morning. You're listening to OTB AM. Best place to listen every morning is the GoLoud app or on OTB Sports Radio, offtheball.com/radio. Sports news with Tom Malone next.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
They spoke about your arm not being down beside your side. I mean, this is not Irish dancing.
OTB Sports Radio.
Basketball would have been my main game.
The brand new sports radio station from Off the Ball.
That's my point. Don't play for us if you're a proud Englishman.
Now broadcasting 24 hours a day. Live on the GoLoud app, Alexa.
You have a whole new world of possibilities.
Google Home, tune in, and offtheball.com/radio.
This is OTB Sports Radio. OTB AM.
Okay, Tom Malone is with us. Tom, how are you?
Good, sure, yeah. I like your London Irish idea.
It's it seems fairly straightforward, I think.
Yeah, it should be. But yeah, it's kind of all about football on the news this morning. Do you want to start with City?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, so Manchester City have had an enormous investment. $500 million investment by an American private equity firm, Silver Lake.
How much did they get for how much is 500 million?
10%. So obviously that values Manchester City then at $4.81 million, which I don't get either. But
billion,
yeah. $4.81 billion, which jumps them enormously up the old Forbes Sports Power Rankings, makes them the most valuable football club on the planet, and makes them probably the second most...
Dallas Cowboys?
Dallas Cowboys are top. Man City are second.
Right.
So like ahead of like the Lakers, the Yankees.
Twice the value of, not quite 2 full times, but 1.75 times more valuable than Manchester United.
Yeah, so...
noisy neighbours, eh?
The noisy neighbours, yeah. So if you think about it, in 2012, there was only one football club valued at more than $2 billion. That was Manchester United. They were the first. And now, like, basically they were the first sports franchise to be valued at more than $2 billion. Now there's like over 50. Basically everyone in the Forbes top 50 is valued over $2 billion.
When you think about the Clippers coming on the market a couple of years ago, and was it Steve Ballmer buying them for $2 billion? It's ridiculous. That guy's got too much money. And now it's like, wow, that was.
There's the thing about it. So it's like, again, the Forbes and Financial Times looking at this going, there are no more bargains to be had in US sport. So a while ago, you could pick up a franchise for $1 billion. It's like, no, you can't do that.
Is there a chance that Forbes have undervalued Manchester City in the first place?
Yeah, possibly, because they actually said on the 2019 list that they were worth $2.69 million. But actually, if you look at the Chinese investment they had in 2015, they're probably worth a bit more than that. But
so is there a chance that Manchester City are the most valuable sports team?
Well, this is a record.
Keep saying millions. Tommy's like billions. Keep saying billions.
Billions, yeah. 500 million they invested to value them at $4.8 billion.
Now, so one of the lines buried in the FT piece today is that Man City are trying to build a new stadium in
Yeah, so they're building. This will help fund CFG's aggressive expansion plans, including the acquisition of more football clubs globally, as well as the planned construction of a stadium in New York.
So they just bought a Division 3 team in China, and they have. There was a mention of Spain, which I didn't know about. They own Nice, right?
Yeah, they have obviously clubs in the States as well. So
New York City, yeah.
So the New York City thing is really interesting because. Madison Square Garden, I think the tender and the ownership for that is up in the next half decade or so. There's been no new construction of a stadium on Manhattan, I think, in the last 40 to 60 years. But the income that you would have from a stadium in Manhattan, because the population is so big, you could put gigs on every night of the week.
Yeah,
it would be tens of millions of dollars immediately, and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars annually. So if you can just get one stadium, then suddenly the value of this isn't necessarily just about, it's not about sport, it's not about having a soccer team in the MLS at all. If you had the venue to have a soccer team in the MLS, happy days, your MLS team makes a bit of money, fills it out, doesn't fill it out, whatever, who cares? Because
that would fit with the Silver Lake kind of investment strategy. So the likes of what they've invested in previously are like big, sort of like Alibaba, the big online shops, and Dell, Skype. But then since then they've invested in the UFC and a Hollywood talent agency, Endeavour. And then you read the line as well, it says the convergence of entertainment, sports, and technology, which does suggest that it's not just about football.
Yeah. So I'm sure all the Man City fans are like thrilled with this news.
Yeah, thrilled that they're talking about using the money to build stadiums in New York and not find a replacement for Sergio Aguero. Let's move on to the actual football. Spurs and a ball boy. We'll start with a ball boy, will we?
Yeah.
Tottenham Hotspur had a ball boy to thank for helping them overturn a 2-0 deficit and beat Olympiacos by 4-2 in the Champions League last night, the new White Hart Lane. The ball boy's quick reaction helped Lucas Moura set up Harry Kane for Spurs' equaliser, and Mourinho couldn't find the young lad after the game.
The kid is a very good ball boy, understands the game, reads the game, is there living the game and playing the game very, very well. In the end, I wanted to invite him for the dressing room to celebrate with us, but he disappears. I don't know where he is, but very good ball boy.
That result, of course, qualifies Spurs for the last 16, along with Manchester City, who topped their group with the 1-0 draw there against Shakhtar Donetsk. Liverpool, well, they can top Group E this evening with a win at home to Napoli. Mo Salah set to play a part. Of course, he missed out on the win over Crystal Palace at the weekend. And Reds boss Jurgen Klopp says his team can't look past tonight's fixture and worry about their upcoming games.
The biggest mistake we could maybe think about, we would have won it already, and what would happen if we win it tomorrow night. Of course, we try to win that game, which would be massive, but we don't feel like we are halfway through. It's really difficult. Napoli is a very, very dangerous opponent tomorrow night, very strong.
Kick-off there in Anfield at 8 o'clock. That's the first of Liverpool's 11 games in the next sort of month or so.
My heart bleeds. You're so successful. You've got loads of cup games.
Possibly 12, actually, of course, if they get to the final of that World Club Championship.
They're not going to beat them.
Right, Frank Lambert's...
Sorry, yeah, of course. Yeah, Club Championship. They probably will do that,
yeah. Frank Lambert's Chelsea, currently second in Group H, but will qualify with an away win in Valencia this evening. They get it away at the Mestalla there at 5-6. And in the other game in that group, it's Sparta against Top as Lille host Ajax at 8. In Gaelic games, Cavan manager Mickey Graham has been dealt a big blow with Killian Clark opting out of their senior football panel for 2020. And 26-year-old is stressed he has not fallen out with management and just wants some time away from the game. Breffni County play Monaghan and Clonus in the Ulster preliminary round next May. And in something I know you're going to touch on later in the show as well, Nemo Rangers forward Paul Kerrigan has spoken out in favour of the club finals moving to calendar time over time. Next year's club's final will be held in January rather than the traditional St Patrick's Day. So obviously quite a bit of furore over the changes in the calendar, but he's one man who's...
Yeah, they're dead right. It's like progress comes slow. When it comes, you just have to get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just finally, snooker, it's day 2 of the UK Championship at the Barbican in York. Ding Junhui and Mark Selby among the bigger names in action today. World #1 Judd Trump and defending champion Ronnie O'Sullivan get their tournaments underway tomorrow.
The Racing Post had a story we're going to find out around noon today. If
Kenboy?
Yeah.
Sounds like the sort of the bones of the previous partnership involved in Cowboy and Supreme Racing Club, excluding the guys who kind of got in trouble, whose names I can't think of off the top of my head. But the guy who owns basically 40%, he has said to the Racing Post today that they have kind of sorted out a new partnership with lots of existing members, and hopefully Cowboy will be able to run under their new colours and will be entered in the Savills Chase at Leopardstown at Christmas.
And we'll know around noon today.
Yeah, those early entries come out today. So.
All right, good stuff, Tom. Thanks for that. We'll keep an eye on that on offtheball.com and on our social channels throughout the day. Monaghan and Clintimber star Conor McManus is going to join us next here on OTBAM. First, though, Colin Fennelly has been speaking to John Duggan around the AIB Club Championship Provincial Finals. Check out offtheball.com and youtube.com/offtheball for plenty more. AIB, proud sponsors of both club and county. Here's Colin on the Carlow-Kilkenny club rivalries and the impact that the loss of teammate Eugene Aylward has had on the panel.
St Martin's, it couldn't have gone better. I think it was a 15-point win, and now you're playing St Mullins in the Leinster final. It's great to see Carlow and Kilkenny, teams that probably wouldn't compete on an even keel regularly enough on an inter-county level. I think the club scene is different, isn't it?
It is certainly different. We played actually a challenge match. I think it was Mountainous Rangers. I think it was a year or two ago, and I think they bet us about 5 points in that game. It was huge, kind of open for us. And we've played Carlow teams over the years. In club championship, and it's never been easy. That's one thing for sure. And St Mullins certainly won't be easy. We've watched games that they've went through already, and the way they're able to get scraped through them 1-point wins is huge confidence for a team, and it shows huge backbone in a team that they're able to do that, especially when they're down a point here and there in the last few minutes of games.
Win the All-Ireland is a brilliant memory, and we've had some tragedies, say, in Tyrone in inter-county level over the last 20 years. You've had a couple of tragedies. Owen Doyle and Eugene Aylward have passed away, and Eugene only recently. It's been a tough time for everybody in Ballyhale. Eugene was on the panel. Yeah, it was a huge shock to the club. We couldn't believe ourselves the next morning when we got the news, especially just so soon after Owen passing. The two lads were best friends. They were cousins, so they were, and to see their families still out there supporting us, is a huge boost for us. And just to see them smiling and supporting us still coming along, it's absolutely fantastic. But it's just still hard to believe that he is gone. You look at the All-Ireland photos and after the match, and he's there smiling, so he is, and just not there now. But let's say his jersey is in every training session with us. His number 19 jerseys in every match, so it is, and he's remembered after every game, no doubt about it. Spoken very highly about. They said the gift of perspective is something that's used as a phrase, but it actually is true, isn't it, in this instance?
It certainly is. I think it was kind of after the game we all kind of just sat back. Henry gave us kind of the week off just to think about what has happened and what we've lost, and it was just massive to the club. It is a very small community, and just the way everyone kind of pulled together for the family, it was just massive, and he's still certainly in our thoughts every day we go out.
You're living up in Dublin now?
Yeah, living up in Dublin the last year and a half. It doesn't feel like it, as you're home for training every Tuesday. I try my best to work from home on Fridays, and you're home every weekend, either training or matches. So you just come up, I get my work done, and then back home pretty much.
Do people realise the sacrifices that are made? I know, look, it's a choice first of all, so it's not something that it's not a burden on you, but it is pretty much flat out, isn't it?
It is hard going, but I'm certainly not the first to do it, and there's so many other lads done. I remember getting into the car with Richie Hogan coming home for training, and I was just finding it tough, and Rich goes, yeah, well sure, try doing it for the last 10 years. And I was like, all right, fair enough. I won't be complaining, but it is hard going, there's no doubt about it.
You happy with your own form in the forward line? Is your eye in at the moment?
At the moment it is. I'm happy enough how it's going. It is up and down, but that's hurling. It's going to be up and down. You're never going to click every day, but lads like TJ and Joey Holden are absolutely flying at the moment. I don't know how they're able to keep it going, but I'm certainly enjoying it. I'm with the club.
All right, 8:54 this morning, and we're staying with club, and I'm delighted to say we got Conor McManus with us this morning to talk about various bits and pieces. Conor, before we get to anything like the advanced mark and that kind of stuff, just interesting listening to Colin Fennelly talking there about he's moving to Dublin, but he's back home for training a good bit. You've done the opposite, I think, in recent times. You've actually moved back to Monaghan from Dublin, is that right?
Yeah. I was in Dublin for a number of years, but I'm back home now in Monaghan now. It's probably about just shy of 18 months now. I took over my own business here in Monaghan town. Sherry Fitzgerald, Conor McManus there. just a year ago, actually, from I actually got the takeover and everything done. I was home a couple of months before I got started, all right, but just in the middle of October there, I have a year done now, so time doesn't belong moving on.
What difference does that actually make to you, not having to travel at the end of your workday across the M50 or however it was that you were actually, maybe you're going back roads to try and avoid the traffic?
Yeah, well, it just meant on days of training and things like that there, you're under a wee bit more pressure, because with Dublin the way it is at the minute, you had to be out of the city by a certain time, or you were going to be under massive pressure getting down the road and even getting food into you before training, just in the right time before training and all the rest, and it just leaves you that you don't have as much planning to do around your whole day. You can sort of be better prepared, for training and getting yourself ready for training when you're around home, which is definitely a big help. Do you see a knock on in performance automatically? If you look at Monaghan's year over the course of it, you probably not. We didn't have our best year this year, but no, you definitely feel pressure, going into training and particularly in the recovery side of things after training, that you don't have to jump into the car and be in the car for an hour and a half or whatever it is after training, and maybe some nights you're finishing at 10 o'clock or 10:30 before you get out of Cloughan, the training grounds there, and then you're facing into an hour and a half up the road, whereas you're only 10 minutes down the road now, so that from that end of things, your recovery is probably so much better, and you're home and you're recovering straight away instead of facing into the journey up the road. Was there ever any period of the year where you would have been doing some collective training with other Monaghan lads in Dublin, even just gym work, or was every training session? You would have been, yeah. You'd be meeting up to do gym sessions and recovery sessions and different bits and pieces along the way, yeah. So you would have been doing that during the year, surely, in Dublin. But now, obviously, you're at home, so you're doing it collectively with the majority of the group. Like in saying that, at times in Dublin, whenever I was in Dublin, there could have been up to 15 or 18 lads in Dublin. When you had the college lads and all that, throughout the winter and even throughout the National League. So the numbers were quite high from on in Dublin. And look, it's not the biggest journey in the world. It's not as if you're going to, when you look at teams like the Mayo lads and other teams that are making that trek across the country, it's not that. And then, you're not going to sit here and say that it's overly bad, but still it's an hour and 45 minutes to sometimes 2 hours, depending on where you're going and how traffic is, Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I know the GPA are kind of talking about this a bit at the minute, about trying to get some uniformity about cut-off times for training sessions, and just not to have players in cars after 11 o'clock at night when you get tired after a training session. You've been up early that day to go to work, to get ready, to make sure that you're going to be able to get off early to go to training. Yeah. And then at the end of the training session, you're obviously exhausted physically and a bit tired mentally, and then you're getting in the car and you're facing an hour and a half, or in some instances, if you're Mayo, up to 3 hours, if you're Donegal, up to 3.5 hours in the car. That some kind of plan in place, some kind of just a general understanding that this is very difficult for players to not be knackered driving home. Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know how you would go about that, because teams, when they're together and they're training at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening, they're going to do what they have to do, and that's just it. You know what I mean? It's like teams that are closer to Dublin and Dublin themselves, and even teams that are maybe in Meath or Kildare or whatever the case, don't have them problems, and the teams that are a wee bit further away, they do. So are they going to give up half an hour on the training field? Just I don't see how that can really work, to be perfectly honest with you. In an ideal world, it would be great, yes, but I just don't see how it's feasible,
Was there ever any talk of getting you a helicopter like Michael Murphy in 2012?
No, didn't get around to that. No, didn't get around to that one.
We've seen Killian Clark and Darren McVeety step away from Cavan in the last few months. Thankfully, that hasn't happened to you guys just yet. You haven't had people stepping away. Like, I know they're all individual cases, but you can definitely see how after a couple of years, if things aren't going well for an individual or things aren't going well for a team, that the travel would be a bit of a grind and the commitment would be a bit of a grind.
There's no doubt, and even you taking away the travel and things, even boys that are living around home but are given the full commitment at home, and given the full commitment to the inter-county season from November right through until whenever it may be, July, August, September, and then into the club season for 2 or 3 months or whatever it may be. It can be a full-time circle, and you can understand why some lads maybe just want to get off the wheel for a year or two, and do their own thing. There's no doubt that lads just want to live their own life, outside of the inter-county spectrum, which is 100% understandable and it's fair enough. If a lad decides to do that, you just have to respect his decision and let him go and do what he has to do.
Yeah, and there's a move now, it seems, or a stepping stone towards a situation where the GAA might have everything played off club-wise within the one calendar year. Obviously, you went on a bit of a run this year. It would help to have that over. I think Paul Kerrigan, we'll hear from later on, is kind of all for pushing forward the All-Ireland Club finals from March, and that'll come within the one calendar year soon, you'd suspect. Yeah, no, I think that will definitely be a help. But in saying that, it really is only affecting, that is really only affecting maybe 4 or 8 teams across the country at the same time. Yes, it will mean that there's no club games going into February and March to Paddy's Day, but that isn't affecting a lot of teams at the minute. There's only 8 teams get to the All-Ireland semi-finals in both hurling and football. So it's not a massive fix at the same time. Yes, it's great to have it done in the calendar year and everything else, but it's not a big thing to me. It'll not make a massive difference to the wider GAA community, and wider clubs across the country.
I think it might put pressure on fixtures makers though to condense things, move everything a bit further forward. So it will, and you've seen that with Donegal this year. Where you were playing, where they had to get the games finished, and there was no penalties or there was no free kicks or anything to decide it. So they ended up playing Sunday, Wednesday in the county final, and then the winners, obviously Glenties, were playing the following Sunday again. So that is already, you can see that being in effect already with teams having to get ready for Ulster clubs and things like that. So it's very hard to get it right. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult task that GAA have in fixing the whole fixture list. It's been talked about now for several years. And yes, there's been attempts been made to tighten things up and everything else, but it's very, very difficult. Should we just accept that penalties are kind of cool and we could all get on with it? And would that be like?
It could come to that. It could come to that. It's not. We've seen it in different places over the year. Our own first club championship game of the year in Monaghan was decided on penalties. Lucky enough, we were just lucky enough to come out on top of it. But it's not a nice way to lose. You wouldn't like to lose like it. But in the saying that, it does get the thing moving, and you're into the next round, and the losers are into the back door, or wherever it may be. It's not a nice way to go out of a championship game. But if we're on about condensing the thing further and further all the time, it may become a necessity.
Yeah, as part of the master fixtures that were released yesterday, there was definitely an increase in the number of games that are going to be decided on the day. Still, obviously, All-Ireland final will go to a replay, but I think the vast majority of knockout games will now be decided on the day, or certainly after one replay as opposed to letting it roll on. Conor, we've been trying to talk to you for ages, or wanted to get you on to get your thoughts on the attacking mark being adopted for next year for the championship as opposed to just for the league as the trial was. But obviously the club were doing really well, so we'll talk about the club in a minute, but I did want to get your thoughts on how the advanced mark is going to change the game. It certainly worked for you and for your game and for Monaghan in the league. How did you manage to adapt to it so quickly? What were the positives of it, and do you see any drawbacks from it?
I don't know if we it's not that we worked on it, to be perfectly honest with you. Last year, because it wasn't going into the championship, there wasn't a whole pile of benefit in spending a lot of time working on it or preparing for it. I suppose that'll probably be different, obviously, this year now, because it's in for the whole year and it's in for the whole championship. So that's a very, very different scenario. But to be honest with you, it's a tricky one, because yes, it encourages kicking, and it encourages kicking from distance, into the forward line and things like that. But I do see it having an effect on slowing the game down to an extent, because when a forward has a point, there in his hand, if you catch the ball around the edge of the D and you're straight in front of the goals, you're going to more than likely stop and take your point, rather than maybe taking on your man, or maybe trying to, work a goal, or whatever the case may be. And it may just take a wee bit of that attacking flair from the inside the 30-yard line out of the game a wee bit, which isn't what we want to see either. And you look at some of the best forwards in the country at the minute, and even Conor Gallagher comes to mind straight away, because he's one player that he always turns and goes straight at his man. So it is something that you don't want to see going out of the game. but in saying that, it may encourage a bit more kicking into the game as well. Now, in saying that, I do think the game was coming back to a more attacking style all the while, and we were beginning to figure things out and working our way away from defensive systems more so as the years have gone on in the last few years. So it's hard to know, did we really need it, you know?
That's a good question.
Now, and that's it. We just all have to get on with it.
Can I just bring you back to last year's? I think it was the first round of the league. You guys beat the Dubs 213 to 113, and you kicked 2 marks, 2 points off marks. Sorry. But the goals both came from catches that you made and Stephen O'Hanlon made, where you decided not to take the mark, and the Dubs defence was a bit static. So there'll be a bit of art in terms of what the forward decides to do and how quickly the forward makes their decision.
There is that, and if you know, you can see possibilities for confusion too, for both defenders, referees. Sometimes forgot to call the mark last year in some of the games. But yeah, you're right. There is it's probably going to be a battle of wits now between defenders and forwards, and I suppose defenders are going to have to be ultra vigilant that they're standing the man up as soon as he catches it, regardless of whether he's taken the mark or not. Is sort of tackle anyway, and then step back if you're told to step back. You know, so there's going to be a bit of figuring out on it. It will take a wee bit of time for it to settle down over the back, because you know we haven't done this since last February or March or whenever the league ends. So it will take a wee bit of figuring out over the next couple of weeks and months.
Yeah, like it is interesting thinking about whether or not this was needed to actually affect change, because as you found out to your detriment, I think last year in the game against Cavan, for sure, they were certainly going quite direct with their kick passing into their full forward line in that particular game, and they weren't the only team to do it, Conor. It was a trend, and you wonder, was that kind of in the subconscious after the league, or was this just something that is developing anyway, and perhaps the advance mark isn't actually needed?
Yeah, as I say, it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Yes, there was a bit more kicking in the league last year. You could see it from early doors in the first couple of games. And as you say, is that a direct effect of that, carrying that into the championship? I do honestly think that the game was evolving from the defensive systems more and more, and that we were inclined to attack a bit more directly, and players and teams were investing more numbers in their attack, you know, so that automatically leads to a bit more attacking football and a bit more kicking. But I do think it will help, you know, and there is an incentive to move the ball that wee bit faster, and you know, from out the field, trying to get into your forward line, and you know, in the skills of the game, you know, particularly the long kicking and punt kicking and catching and things like that. But it's it's very much a case of we'll have to just wait and see how it really pans out, especially in heat of championship football. It's all right talking about league football and you know, we've trialled it and things like that, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out in the heat of battle in the summer.
Yeah, just to bring this full circle there, the point you made about how in recent seasons certainly attacking play had come much more to the fore. Teams had decided that they were going to try and win games as opposed to not lose. I don't know when that happened or how it happened, but certainly we seem to be going in the right direction. We seem to be getting things.
Well, it's probably happened because of Dublin, if we're all being honest. You know, because they obviously got beaten by Donegal in 2014 and haven't been beaten since. But their template was, you know, they're scoring 16, 17, 18 points a game in big games in Croke Park, and every other team has had to say, right, well, if we're going to beat Dublin, we're going to have to outscore them first and foremost, you know, and to do that we need to be getting 17, 18, 19 points on the board in Croke Park come the latter stage of the championship. So a lot of teams were gearing towards that. Now, you know, teams have achieved that, but Dublin are still achieving that wee bit more at the minute. But that is probably, you know, the way it is teams follow the most successful team, and for a while the likes of Donegal and a few teams, like, they came and they won their All-Ireland on the back of a defensive system. So teams followed suit and figured this is the way to do it. We have to follow suit. But now Dublin have come up with their own way of winning, and teams are following suit accordingly, you know.
Yeah, and they've come up with an attacking plan. It's a real tactic. It's a real philosophy in how they actually play. It's something that we've kind of spoken about on the show before, the way the corner forwards and the half forwards kind of interchange around near the sideline and the end line. It's almost like set plays within Gaelic football at the moment. I'm not sure, as a forward, is that something that you've been working on with your county at the moment? Are you trying to set things up, and have you got into a routine of how you're going to approach when it comes to point getting?
Yeah, well, that's it. And to be honest, there's teams are still quite defensive. And even if you look at the All-Ireland last year, you know, both games were brilliant games. But at times, Dublin had 14, 15 men inside their own half. Like, they will do what they have to do at times. Like, and I don't think we can just say we can ignore that, because, as I say, teams will do what they have to do. And Dublin are no better than anybody for that. They can go out and they can score 16, 17, 18 points against you, and they have the best attacking footballers in the country. But they will stop you at the other end when they have to as well. So they're not just going out for a complete shootout. They're not negating their defensive duties either. So it makes it difficult. Then you have to try and break them down, and that's, as you say, one way of trying to do that is a sort of a set play within your play, and it's something most teams are going to have to get better at if somebody's going to compete with Dublin and ultimately beat them.
How close do you think? I mean, obviously, Kerry got very close in the drawing game. Does that mean they're automatically close again next year? And how close is everybody else?
Yeah, well, I do think Kerry aren't far away. There's no doubt. And the thing about Dublin is, you know, they're after winning 5 in a row. You don't win that unless you're the best team and the greatest team of all time. But in saying that, over the course of them 5 years, teams have run them close. You know, Mayo have run them close in that time, and Kerry have obviously run them close, and different teams have come within 2 or 3 points of them, but ultimately nobody's managed to beat them. So they're still far and away the best team in the country at the minute, and it's up to everybody else to try and minimise that gap as best they can.
Conor, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million.
No worries at all.
That's Conor McManus giving us some thoughts this morning, and if you need a gaff, Conor McManus, Sherry Fitz in Monaghan Town.
Yeah, it's going to be obviously disappointing from a couple of weeks ago with Clontarf, but like there's kind of a bittersweet nature to McManus's career over the last 15 to 18 months, because kind of getting to new ground in All-Ireland semi-final last year and then ending in such a heartbreaking fashion against Tyrone, and then I guess similarly this year with Clontarf, although Clontarf have won plenty of Monaghan titles, and McManus has picked up a few of them himself.
Before we leave GAA for now, we're going back to the AIB Leinster Hurling Club Championship final. Here's Marty Kavanagh of Carlow Club St Mullins talking about their selector Michael Ryan, who had a heart attack during the Coola game, and how he sent a message at half-time during the semi-final against Rathdowney Errol.
Just about St Mullins in South Carlow, quite a small area, quite a small part of the world, I think. Yeah, look, a small place. You know, there's two churches in it. There's no shop. A couple of 3 national schools. There's a cafe down at the river. Anyone that knows it now, it's a beautiful place down there, and it's steeped in history, like, and just people who love the hurling down there as well, like, so it's great. So how did you get this great squad together to get into Leinster Club final? Yeah, I know it's over 100 years old, the club, like, so it's always been hurling mad club, like, you know, it's just what you're growing up into, like, so every year, we have a good team, like, you know, so thankfully this year now we're after putting a push on in Leinster, because years previous we haven't been doing, so happy to be in Leinster final now. Back-to-back wins against Coola. Going into that game, did you feel confident? Did you feel you had a chance, or was it more during the game that you felt, you know what, we're going the right way here? I know, look, you always feel like you have a chance, you know. Obviously, as the game went on, like, you knew, like, that there's a serious chance here, you know, of getting one over here on these, like, and thankfully, you know, we did. And then obviously Rathdowney then 2 weeks later, and again 1 point win again, like, and it's great to be coming out these tight games, by, you know, on the right side, like, you know, it's great for going forward, like. Micheál Ryan, your selector, had a heart attack around the Coola game, but you got a message during the semi-final. Yeah, just we were obviously a point down, and, you know, the game was there to be won, like, and just the manager came in and said, he just got off the phone to Micheál in the hospital bed, and Micheál just told us what Micheál said, and just a bit of advice in the second half, and, you know, we took it on, and thankfully it worked. Did that put a shiver down everybody's spine? Yeah, look, it definitely did, like, you know. Obviously we'd love for him to be there, like, you know, but I suppose we use it as a motivator too, like, to give him another day out, like, you know, at Leinster final, and thankfully, you know, he'll be able to go now next Sunday, and it's great for him.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
From music to rock out to, chill out to, and dance to. From sweater weather to workout playlists. Whatever mood you're in, GoLoud has music to match. Download the GoLoud app now or add us on your smart speaker. GoLoud, podcasts, radio, and music to your ears.
OTB AM.
Okay, so it's 9:15 a.m. A couple of weeks ago in Lisbon, I got the chance to speak with Ronaldo when he received the Web Summit Innovation in Sport Award. Tickets are already on sale for the next Web Summit event in Toronto in June 2020. Go check out collisionconf.com for details. It was a rare in-depth sit-down and an even rarer extended English language interview. He's recently bought himself a football club, so there was a lot to get into. Have a look.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Web Summit for the great honor to be here. And this huge event, I'm very glad, and I want to thank for this award. Yeah, football for me is everything. So I spent my whole life playing, and 1 year, 3 months ago, I decided to buy a club and start a new era in my short life. I'm still 43 years old, and I think this is amazing to receive in such big trophy for me, because it's very new what I'm doing. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Nice. Have a seat. Have a seat. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Is this Valladolid's first trophy?
Yeah, I think so. I think we don't have much trophy in Valladolid, but yeah, it's still we have a lot of work to do, and I hope I can bring as much trophy as I can now as a president, not more as a player.
Can I ask, why did you buy Valladolid? Why that club?
Well, it's I spent my whole life playing football, learning everything football, and football is what I know how to do, and it's what I love to do it. I was thinking after football player career, doing something in football, but not coach, because, manage 25 players is such a difficult mission. And I was studying a lot. I stopped playing in 2011, and then I started my new era doing sport marketing in Brazil. I opened sport marketing agency with WPP in Brazil called 9. And after 3 years we closed, but it was a very good experience for me. After that I have been spent 2 years in Miami, not exactly Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
I bought a team in Fort Lauderdale called Striker. It was a very historic team in the US, playing NSL division. And after 2 years, I decided to quit. So I've been moving to London, practice and learning more about administration. And I come back 2 years ago to Madrid, and I was looking for a team to buy. So
definitely a team in Spain, or did you check in Italy or Holland? Were you interested in anywhere?
I was looking everywhere. I
Right.
was looking in England, second division, of course, because first division was too expensive for me. Even second division is still expensive because of the TV rights in UK. So I was looking in Portugal, and I'm still looking in Portugal something. I was looking in Spain. Then I went to World Cup in Russia, work as a commentator for Brazilian TV, and I received a call from my lawyer that has received an offer from Valladolid. And that was exactly what I'm looking for, you know, a team with big history in Spain, close to Madrid because I live in Madrid. It's a 1 hour and 40 minutes drive. And of course, of the price. And the team actually was in second division. At the end of the World Cup, the team, Valladolid, get a promotion for the first division. And we announced a team on 3 September of the last year. So Valladolid is a team with 90 years old. It's the 13th team of history in the league.
Okay.
So that is perfect, you know. It's a city with 300,000 people.
A nice size, not too big, not too small.
Not too big, not too small, and the only team in the city with the region of 2.5 million people. So that was perfect opportunity for me, and I decided to jump and about the team, and I'm very happy, you know. But like every weekend, I suffer so much. And I never suffer like that as a player, but I'm having a lot of fun, and you know, so far we are doing well. We have to improve a lot, but yeah, I'm very happy with the club.
Being a club owner in England, they say the fastest way to become a millionaire is to be a billionaire and buy a football club. So it's risky. It's a risky business.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me if I really put my money into this business, you know, if it's some billionaire behind me and supporting me, but I wish some billionaire support me, but now it's through my money, and I truly believe that I can do a beautiful job there and make Valladolid bigger.
What will Ronaldo's football club be? What values do you hold true that will separate Valladolid from other teams? Why do you feel like you can make this a success?
Well, as my experience as a player, you know, I know how they play, what they play like, what they play want. And I try to be very close to the players and give them everything they want. And, you know, we have a lot of support. We make this year 22,000 season support, season
tickets, right? Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a record for the club. And the whole city is supporting us. We did some change in the stadium this year. I think it was the first change in the stadium since the World Cup in 1982, when the stadium was born. And you know, improve the facilities in the club. We want to make a big facility training for the guys, for the players. We know that we cannot compete with the big clubs because they have a lot of money and we don't.
Yeah.
But you know, we need to improve our facility training to make our players, you know, at home, you know.
Yeah. You're obviously very competitive. You won World Cups. You were the best footballer in the world. Is it difficult then to admit that you can't now compete against Barcelona and Real Madrid? How do you balance your own competitive instincts with the reality of the situation?
Yeah, we just played against Barcelona a week ago and was 5-1, terrible result. And Messi decided to play an unbelievable match. And, well, but the difference between us is too many million, you know. Barcelona get like almost 700 million euro for TV rights. And we just have the second last budget in the league at 32, 33 million euro. It's very difficult to compete against them, but you know, we have to make good players at home and then sell. We are looking for more income money to invest in the club. But, you know, we are fighters, you know. Yeah. We fight against them. We play against Real Madrid in the Bernabeu Stadium, and we draw 1-1. So it's not about money, but of course money help a lot.
When you were playing, did you know you would become an owner? Was it always part of your thinking that eventually I don't want to coach, I don't want to be the manager, I don't want to be a technical director, I want to own a club?
No, I didn't know about that, but you know, other players always call me president, and I never knew why, but I was, you know, president of talking with the guys, but no, I knew that I never been coach. I will never be coach. That's what I knew.
Why not?
Because it's too difficult, you know, managing 25 young players, each one thinking different things and wants different things, and it's too difficult, and I prefer being president, be with them. It's a big challenge for me because, you know, it's not easy to compete with the other big clubs, and I brought a very good team that that I know to help me with the administration. So we have a lot to do, still a lot to do to improve the team. Yeah, we will keep fighting.
As a 17-year-old at PSV, you lit up Europe with your smile, and that was synonymous with you all the way through winning the World Cup and playing for Real Madrid. You're smiling still today, the pressure of being president. How do you deal with that?
Well, for me it's normal that I try to be myself every time, every moment. You know, the players, I know when they see me, they will ask me something, like I did before. You know, every time ask for more money, for more facilities, you know, to the president, and then every time I see the player, I try to escape.
Like a defender.
Yeah.
They're a defender. And anyway, it's pretty amazing that you're still using your skills to escape. Can I ask you about the 2002 team and winning the World Cup? Yourself and Ronaldinho and Rivaldo. Ronaldinho's here today as well.
Yeah.
Was that the best trio that you played with? Was that the best team that you played in?
I don't know. It's too hard to say that because I played with many other big players, and of course 2002 was a very special moment for me. Not because we won the World Cup, but 2 years early, I broke my knee, and nobody could bet for me and to be in the World Cup. So it was a very hard time for me. And when I came to World Cup, I just was, very glad to be there and play football again. But was amazing. I never expected to come back like that and score 8 goals in World Cup. Of course, thank you to my teammates. Ronaldinho was amazing. Rivaldo, Gilberto Silva is also here, and he played amazing football there. So it was a very good time for me there.
Around the same time, the Real Madrid side had you, Raúl, Figo, Zidane, Beckham, Roberto Carlos. Not a bad team as well. But my question is not which team was better. Which team had the best parties?
Well, I was also the president of the parties, so most of the party I organized it. So my girlfriend now is very happy that I retired also for the party, and I miss it so much at the party. But I'm too busy now, and I have to focus on what I'm doing. And summer is coming, far away.
Yeah.
I used to go to Ibiza to spend holiday with my kids and with family and friends in Ibiza, and I party sometime there.
Okay, so not fully retired.
Yeah.
And when the players come to you and they've stepped out of line or they've partied too much, you can sit them down and say, hey, I've been there.
Last season, we were fighting for staying in the first division, missing 5 matches to the end. And I promised the guys, if we stay in first division, I bring everyone to Ibiza. We won 3 games in a row and we saved. It was very good, and of course we party last summer.
Do you still keep in touch with your Brazil teammates and with your Real Madrid teammates? Are you still friends? Is that your network for football?
Yeah, we still have contact with all the Brazilian players, of course, but also with David, that is doing a beautiful job also in Miami. With Figo, Zidane, that they also live in Madrid. And Roberto Carlos, for sure, a very close friend of mine. So
it helps when it comes to signing players, and just your network, your contacts book is huge because you played in so many different countries and experienced so many cultures.
Yeah, I live and I watch football as never done before. So every weekend is like an overdose of football. And of course I talked with them and with my friends to ask them about players and what they think. And I have a nice computer.
Your ambition for Valladolid, what does success look like?
Well, for the next 3 years, I think to stay in first division. We're planning to, stay in first division because it's huge difference of a budget to stay in first division and go in second division. This year we got 52 million of TV rights, but we still have debit from before, and the goal is pay all the debit stay in first division. We have to sell for sure some players to keep improving.
Well, listen, I hope there's plenty of parties for Real Valladolid in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, an absolute legend, Ronaldo.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
That was class. I enjoyed that.
I'd say it is. Yeah, he seems like an unbelievably friendly guy.
And also quite smart and articulate in his fourth language, and just wants to get involved and wants to do stuff as opposed to sit back and retire. And he's got a mansion with a football pitch and a swimming pool in Ibiza that he could just be living in all the time if he wanted to. So
true, and we all know that Web Summit is like an absolute sesh for tech heads. So yourself and Ronaldo, where did you go for pints?
Well, Ronaldo flew home that night, unfortunately. Ronaldinho didn't, but our entourages got separated.
Your people missed his people.
He showed up at the dinner we were at, and then, trying to be cool, we all waited too long before we were like, where does he go? So we missed him. But anyway, if you haven't been to Web Summit, I would recommend it. As I said a little bit earlier on, tickets for the next gig in Toronto are on sale now. Check out collisionconf.com. Right, that is it from us this morning on OTB AM. Thanks for staying tuned all the way. On OTB Gold today at 1 o'clock, we've got this.
OTB Gold. The very best of off the ball. This is OTB Sports Radio.
You did go after Greg LeMond after he said in that interview with David Walsh that if you were doping, it was the greatest fraud in history. That scene, I think, where you're actually reading the paper is in the Alex Gibney movie. So there was a personal sense of anger towards him, which maybe leads to some of the language that you use. You don't think you need to make financial restitution, obviously. That's clear.
No, I don't think I do. And here's the thing, Garrett, is I sat in that room, not only with Greg and Kathy, I sat in that room with his lawyer and with my lawyer, and there were plenty of other people in that room, and I apologize to them. Nope, never at any time did Greg and or Kathy say, hey, we feel like you owe us financially, right? And I don't need to get into the details of the conversation. The most important part was that I was sorry for my actions. I was embarrassed by my actions, and I apologized to them, and they accepted the apology.
Okay, I don't think they did accept the apology. It seems that's certainly...
You weren't in the room. What are you talking about?
Well, I've got pretty good sources.
Oh, okay. Okay, Superman.
Right, you can hear the rest of that this afternoon. I haven't heard that in a while. That's coming your way at 1 o'clock on OTB Sports Radio. We're going to release all of our OTB Gold as a new podcast stream at some point early in the new year. But in the meantime, the only place to get it is on the GoLoud app. Every afternoon at 1 o'clock, we play some of our best stuff. And this week, I guess we're playing that. So if you've missed anything from OTBM this morning, Ronaldo at the Web Summit, football with Graham Hunter, the sports pages, why Irish rugby should buy London Irish, and our interview with Conor McManus. You can catch the podcast back on offtheball.com/podcast or the GoLoud app. You can watch it back on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. Tonight on Off the Ball, Damien Delaney is back in studio for another night of Champions League action and some more great anecdotes about José Mourinho, hopefully. Keith Wood is on Wednesday Night Rugby. OTBM back tomorrow morning from 7:30. We'll have the latest football and now former Italy head coach Conor O'Shea with us in studio as well. See you then. Good luck.
OTB AM. This is OTB